Guess what dropped today? The U.S. men's national team roster for the Conacaf Nations League. And we have some names to talk about. So hit like and subscribe, and let's get after it. Hi, hello, and welcome to your favorite average to good podcast. Call it what you want. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Charlie Davies and the return of the big man, Big Tones, Tony Meola. Oh, baby. Tony, we have a big show today, but first and foremost, the most important thing is that you're here with us. How are you feeling? Give us an update. Give us the goods. It's so good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, man, it's good to see you guys. I feel good. A little over 3 weeks out of my little episode, and things are going in the right direction. And I chatted with my doc. I had a great follow-up 4 or 5 days ago, and I said, "Look, doc, I'm going crazy. I need to get back to work and just like get my mind off of all of this stuff." And yeah, he said, "What do you do?" And he had no idea what I do, who I was. And yeah. And I'm like, "Oh, I work in radio and television." He goes, "You don't lift things, do you?" And I go, No. I go, "I just sit there and talk about soccer." He goes, "I don't know. You could talk all you want. Go talk." He goes, "Go talk." I'm like, "Okay." So yeah, look, I had a real nasty health scare. I'm feeling good. I still have some work to do. But I've left this thing, Jimmy and Charlie, with a silver lining, and that's been go get checked. Because you guys know, I've been on this sort of health kick for a year and was losing weight and running again and all that stuff. And before I knew it, I had a heart attack 4 days after running like 4 miles. And it was scary. I had to have a procedure done, emergency procedure done. So my message is go get checked, and all my I can't tell you, that's been the silver lining. And I don't want to bore you with all this stuff because it's U.S. men's national team day. But the one thing I found is hundreds and hundreds of people who have reached out to me and said, not only wishing me well, but said, "Hey, this has gotten me to go to the doctor and get checked," because what you see on the outside isn't necessarily what's going on the inside. And I'll leave you with just kind of what I've been telling everybody, because everyone says, "I don't have the time." I did it. I don't have the time. I'm working. I don't need a checkup. I feel good, blah, blah, blah. Go get a checkup. It takes so little time. The best thing that can happen when you get that checkup, guys, is they come out of there and they say, "Charlie, Jimmy, you guys are fine. Go on. I'll see you in a year. Or I'll see you in 2 years." And then the next best thing that can happen is that they find out there's something that you need to address. Right. Mm-hmm. So about it. And then the worst thing that can happen is an episode. So the 2 of the 3 options are pretty good when you go in there. So take care of yourself. I missed you guys. I missed talking about the game, and I'm just mentally, I needed to get back to work because this whole thing was driving me crazy. So I'm so happy to be back. And thank you to everybody that reached out, because there's no way I could ever get back to everybody, but it's been incredible.
Yeah, the comments are popping off as well, Big Tones, and I think that's a really strong message with regard to getting checked. Even if you're feeling a little bit off, just go get checked.
How about not off, Jimmy? That's the crazy thing.
That's true. That's true. Because Big Tones,
4-mile run, he's feeling good. We see him every day, and you would think there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. And thankfully for Tony, he's still with us, and his son was there to really help him. It's just, I was like brought down to my knees, Tony. I was sick to my stomach, and thankfully your family's there to watch over you. I mean, it's what a scare. I mean, I can't begin to imagine how you felt and how your family felt at that time.
Yeah, Big Tones. For those that are not watching, Charlie wore his best outfit for you today. He's wearing an orange tank top. So this is an honor.
This is all for Tony.
That's not even a tank top. Is that a penny that you wear at practice?
Yeah, it's a penny, but it's like it's a chill penny. It's a beach penny. Hey, if I had a man bun, if I had the ability to wear a man bun, I'd be rocking it for Tony right now. I'll tell you that.
Oh man,
I love you guys. Thanks, man.
We love you too, Big Tones, and we're excited to talk to you about the U.S. men's national team. The roster just dropped for the Concacaf Nations League. I'm going to name all 23 players, and then we're going to get into it in case you haven't seen it or haven't heard who these names are. We're going to start with the goalkeepers. So we got Patrick Schulte from the Columbus Crew in the team, Zach Steffen from the Colorado Rapids, Matt Turner from Crystal Palace are our three goalkeepers. Moving on to the defenders, we got both boys from Celtic, Cameron Carter-Vickers and Austin Trusty, both in the team. Mark McKenzie, Tim Ream, Chris Richards, Joe Scally, Anthony Robinson, and Marlon Fossey, who only has one cap to his name for the U.S., is getting the call-up as well. Congratulations to him. In midfield, we have Tyler Adams, his first foray under Mauricio Pochettino as the U.S. men's national team head coach. Johnny Cardoso, fresh off of scoring against Real Madrid. Diego Luna from Real Salt Lake getting the nod. Hopefully his nose will be better. We'll see if he's bleeding from any part of his face. Weston McKinney's in the team. Gio Reyna is in, and Tanner Tessman rounds out the midfielders. And surprisingly, as we go to the forwards, Yunus Musah is listed as a forward, which is pretty funny. So I'd probably put him more in the midfield department, but okay, whatever. Got Christian Pulisic, his Milan teammate, coming off of 2 goals this weekend. We got Patrick Adjumong from Charlotte FC. Get a little boost from that January camp. Josh Sargent is in, scored again this past weekend for Norwich. Timothy Weah is in, and then Brian White from the Vancouver Whitecaps rounds out the team. And Big Tones, let's start with you. Let's go to the goalkeepers. We had Schulte. We have Zach Steffen, and we have Matt Turner. Are you surprised by any of those names?
No, I think those were the 3 I expected to see on this list. Matt Freese has been playing well. Ethan Horvath's been up and down. I guess Cochin is the one, right, that people wanted to see in camp again. But Pochettino's I picked, I think, the 3 guys that are playing at the highest level and playing the best right now. Zach Steffen had another good weekend this weekend. He's obviously got national team experience. Matt Turner, we know, is Pochettino's number 1 right now, given his position with the club, which is not ideal. And we talk about that. And then Schulte, he's been there now a couple of camps, and I think he's kind of grown into the good graces of these players. He's probably the best with his feet playing out. They're not great. So I'm wondering how Pochettino uses these guys. Although I have seen Zach Steffen over the last couple of weeks, man, that 40 to 60 yard range pass, that's really become a big part of his game. So we'll see how that gets utilized. But yeah, there's a little bit of competition at that position, but no surprise, Jimmy.
Okay, and then let's just jump to the front line. So we're going from the back line, talking with our resident goalkeeper, Tony Meola, and now Charlie Chuck Wagon Davies. We're going to a resident 9 because there was some opportunities here to see a few different players, with Flo Balogun being hurt, Ricardo Pepi being hurt. And now we thought maybe we'd see a Damian Downs. You know, he's having a good season for FC Cologne and the second Bundesliga, scoring a bunch of goals, scored against Bayer Leverkusen in the German Cup, 6'4", nice player profile. But we get Brian White, we get Adjumong, which I think validates that, hey, the January camp can matter, right? For Mauricio Pochettino and the coaching staff, got some time around them and see how they fit in. And you got Yunus Musah listed as a forward. So I want to get your thoughts, resident number 9, Chuck Wagon.
Yeah, I mean, Brian White is the surprise. He not the surprise in the sense because he's performing with the Vancouver Whitecaps. I think he's scoring goals. He looks active. But we've seen him with U.S. men's national team. We've seen just where his level is, and I think he's playing at his absolute peak. So I think what it came down was, you know, a Brian White or a Jordan Morris or a Damian Downs, right? You know, you're looking at other options, and they just went with the hot hand. I don't anticipate Brian White getting any minutes. You know, Adjumong is another player who showed well in January camp, but hasn't really shown too much to start Major League Soccer in this season. So I think Pochettino is going back to what he saw from him in January camp and saying, you know what, I've seen enough. Given that the season's early and you really haven't gotten going yet, I'm willing to bring you in. And then, you know, I think the same thing goes for Diego Luna in that case, but we'll talk about that later. But I mean, Josh Sargent is the top striker, and it's not even close. So I'm hoping that this is the opportunity that he finally, it clicks for him and he delivers and he scores goals and he opens up the attacking third for the U.S. men's national team.
So would you say that if you're going to go and use the hot hand as kind of your frame of reference, wouldn't Jordan Morris get the nod over Adjumang, given that he's already scored 3 goals so far for Seattle in this?
I would give Jordan Morris the nod over Brian White. I'd give him the nod over both. But I guess Adjumang is more of a project. Like, he's a little bit of an enigma. He's a different profile. He's younger than Jordan Morris and Brian White. So I think from that standpoint, you say, hey, let's take a flyer. Let's bring him in with the A group. Let's see how he performs.
Okay, so let's talk defenders now. This will be my area of expertise. I put air quotes around expertise. But we have Cameron Carter-Vickers, center back, right? Austin Trusty, Tim Ream, Mark McKenzie, Chris Richards. Kind of your 5 out-and-out true center backs. You have Joe Scally, who has been playing in that right back hybrid kind of back 3 in the build-out phase in previous camps under Pochettino. You got Anthony Robinson, obviously going to be starting out wide left. And then Marlon Fossey, a bit of a surprise there. Not a ton of experience, but clearly is doing enough to warrant consideration. Serginho Dest, by the way, just got to throw him into the conversation. Played the last 20-something minutes for PSV in their 2-1 win over Heerenveen. Got himself into tackles, told himself he wanted to get himself into tackles, really start to build that confidence once again to just go out there and be competitive and not have any fear. So that's obviously a pleasant surprise. We'll see how that unfolds. So I say that because this is as big of an opportunity for Marlon Fossey this is it. Because Dest is coming back, and we know Wea can play there. We know that Musah can play out wide right if we need.
McKinney can play there.
Yeah, you have a ton of guys that can play there. So this is kind of now or never for Fossey. So this is interesting. I know, and I know that these guys are giving me a hard time off camera before we started. I died on the hill. Walker Zimmerman's going to be in this camp. He did not get called. I'm a little bit bummed.
You said you'd take a bullet for him.
I would. Listen. I've admitted plenty of times over that he's the player that's probably closest resembles my playing style and how I used to play, and I'm obviously pulling for him. I thought the World Cup experience would be enough to maybe see him into this group, but unfortunately he is not in. I'd rate him over Cameron Carter-Vickers, so I still would do that, and I'm not ashamed to say as much. But Cameron Carter-Vickers hasn't been into a camp yet with Mauricio Pochettino, and obviously they had crossed over at Tottenham, so getting him in now that he's healthy, getting ready to go. Austin Trusty, a left-sided center back. I'm curious as to who Pochettino elects to start in this one. He's got a few options in the first game, I should say, against Panama. Go ahead,
Jimmy. What do you make of this comment from Matt Christopher that Tim Ream is not even playing center back at Charlotte? He's playing left back, and
he's 38.
Yeah, should it's time to kind of move on from him? You think he should every time we
say that he's so steady, right? He's a good leader. He makes what I love about Tim Ream's game the most is that anytime he's under pressure with the ball, the coolness and calmness and composure that he exudes, I believe, permeates to everybody else. You always have 1 or 2 of those players, or you should at least, on every single team. You give them the ball and everything slows down and everything feels calm. Tim Ream has that in spades, especially in the back line when we're under a lot of pressure. If another team's high pressing us, he usually makes the right pass to unlock that pressure, and that allows us to actually build out in a proper fashion as we transition from line to line. I don't know if any of the other guys have that same type of quality, and his leadership and experience obviously is something that's valuable too. I wouldn't be surprised if he started, but I also wouldn't be disappointed if he didn't, I guess is the best way to say it. Tones, though, as someone who's seen a lot of center backs and back lines in your career, what do you expect to see from Pochettino if we had to kind of get it ahead of it and say who's going to start in this first game?
Well, on the conversation about Ream or any other center back, it's the one position on the field that I would find hard arguing with Pochettino about, right? given how he grew up and what he played and all of that, and the understanding of that position. Right. How does he go? I still think Mark McKenzie's path is still going like this. Chris Richards has been outstanding. Anthony Robinson in the back, depending on how he wants to play him, and we've seen. So it's been Scally, who was that? McKenzie, Tim Ream, and Anthony Robinson. Now Robinson had that different role against Jamaica in the second game. So I would think, Jimmy, that's how he starts again, because it's been 4 games and outside of January camp, it was 4 games with those guys together. And he was able to mix some different ideas into that back 4. So why wouldn't you try and build on that if you're Pochettino? That's just my gut feeling that he would go with those 4 guys for game 1.
All right, let's get into the midfield then. And Chuck, I'll come to you on this. You got Tyler Adams, lock starter, right? You got Johnny Cardoso. Johnny Cardoso, Tanner Tessman could be possibilities. I think they're competing with each other.
Yeah.
And then you have Weston, McKinney, Diego Luna, and Gio Reyna. So
well, this is the thing, Jimmy. I noticed that Christian was listed as a forward, right?
He was.
With Pochettino, he's played as a 10, as an attacking midfield. So one of the 2 attacking midfield positions. So does that mean he's going to go away from Christian playing in that 10 next to McKinney, or McKinney playing like an 8 and Tyler as the lone 6? I don't see Cardoso playing as a lone 6. I think he plays really well as that middle guy in a 3 midfield system. He's an 8. He does kind of the box to box. He's more of a midfielder, good in position. He can anticipate, but he's not breaking up tackle, breaking up challenges. He's not breaking up tackles. He's not one of those kind of players. So I think it's Adams is clear number 1 as a 6. McKinney and Pulisic are the 2 attacking midfielders. Now Reyna and Luna are I'd say it's Reyna number 2, Luna just below him, and then Cardoso and Tessman are kind of, I'd see them as equals. It's B1, B2, B1 1.5.
We got you.
They're right there. What about what would you say?
So when I look at it, there's 6 midfielders listed, though Tim Weah and Yunus Musah are both listed as forwards when they don't play there with their club teams. So I guess Tim gets some action at times up there. So Tones, we got Tyler and Weston McKinney probably locked in, which means you got 4 players competing potentially, because you can throw Christian or Yunus into that mix as well. I'm kind of curious as to who that third person's going to be in this midfield.
Yeah. So keep in mind, Musah listed, as you mentioned, as a forward on the 60-man roster. When that came out, Yunus Musah was listed as a midfielder in that one. So I don't know what changed in that time. Obviously, his time playing on the right-hand side of Milan probably changed it a little bit. And then one of the things I want to ask Pochettino when we see him is, like, Charlie, you mentioned Christian playing as an attacking midfielder, right? Starting out on the left a little bit and then coming in the middle. Does Pochettino see that as a forward position? Me personally, I look at an attacking midfielder like a true number 10 as more of a forward than I do a midfielder. Pochettino clearly by this has some different ideas, so that'll be interesting to talk to him about. Timothy Weah, who has been playing right back, he's been playing left back, he's been playing right wing.
He played left wing in the last game against Jamaica, right? Left wing, right. Christian central with Weston, Tessman behind them, right? So I don't know. To me, that's not a forward. You know what I mean?
Timothy Weah's played everywhere else for his club team than he has for the national team. Like the spot he plays with the national team, he hasn't played once for Juventus. So, but I think this shows that there's just different ideas from managers, right? I know Brian White is the one that kind of jumps off the page as a new guy, but we knew coming out of January camp. I think the thing with like an Ajiman or a Luna or a Brian White is, you guys know how managers think. When you're in camp and you're seeing them every day and you're seeing certain movements that they make and you see the way they train and how maybe they came into camp and I'm just using a number. Out of a level 10, they were a 3. But through camp, you gave them a couple of instructions and all of a sudden they became a 3, a 4, a 5, a 6. And you're like, can I get them now to 7 and 8 and 9 if I keep giving them information? Because I'm giving them the information, they're digesting it, they're using it. So that's how managers think. So I know some of these things might look at, like a surprise to you, but just being in front of players, that's why we used to joke about January camp, but how many guys over the years, Jimmy, you were one of them, right? How many guys over the years have come out of January camp because you're in front of the coach? You're in front of the other players. That's just the way that the system works.
And it's important to have that time. And when I think about what Mauricio Pochettino and his staff are doing, is they're looking to find the most balanced team that they can. Mm-hmm. And these are all important, whether it's a January camp, whether it's a friendly against Mexico in Mexico, it's all information. You're getting bits of information and you're trying to put together the best most efficient, most balanced team. It's interesting though, because we could argue that Musah and CIWYW were put as forwards maybe by design. Maybe it's clear to them that they're going to have Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie for sure in the midfield, and then it's just a matter of whether it's Cardoso or Tessman, or if they want to be a little bit more attacking, it's Diego Luna or Gio Reyna
or Christian.
Christian. Yeah, it's fascinating. But let's
and
talk
we don't even have Dest yet. You know what I mean? It's like
right.
Dest completely throws things out of whack.
Yeah, and in the best possible way, right? Because it gives
right.
us a different look and how we want to approach different teams. So, yes, it's exciting times. But let's talk about Dest. He's an omission for this one, obviously coming back from injury. Daryl Dike, just throwing him into the mix. He's coming back from injury. Haji Wright coming back from injury. It sounds like Damian Downs had to have hand surgery, so he's injured, even if he was even being considered. We'll have to maybe wait a little while to find out if that's true or not. But there's some other omissions. And one for me was pretty surprising. Brendan Aaronson. We put up a poll for everybody watching on the Golazo America YouTube channel. If you're listening to this, head over there and hit like and subscribe and turn on your notifications, as you should. Then you have Alejandro Zendejas, who obviously was in red hot form down in Liga MX for Club America. I'm not surprised that he's not in, because every time he does come in, he hasn't done a lot with those opportunities, but playing well enough to warrant consideration, and he is out. Walker Zimmerman, as we mentioned, Miles Robinson, another omission on this one. Gianluca Busio, Brandon Vasquez. Yeah, go ahead.
What does this say about the championship? What does this say about Liga MX? Because we came on here last time. We said, oh, Zendejas is, wowing and showing everybody his quality in Liga MX, and he's top of the board in assists and goal contributions, and he's not even included in this. What does that tell you? Diego Luna is included in this.
Six MLS players are on this roster.
So now
the Euro snobs are not going to be happy, Chuck.
No, what I'll tell you is one thing is, do you think MLS players who are leaving for the championship are now going to be thinking twice? Because before it was, I got to get out of here, I got to go to the championship. Now you say, well, guess what? Hold on a second. The championship isn't it might be competitive as hell, and you have an opportunity to get to the Premier League, but the actual league itself, if you could choose players from a first division, albeit MLS, or let's see the Bundesliga, the Liga, that Pochettino and his staff see that as more competitive than competing in the championship, right? Or Liga MX. So I think if you're a national team player at the moment and you're thinking about the next move, let's say you have a move in the summer potentially that could get you on the roster, keep you on the roster, potentially take you off the roster, you're not going to the championship. You're not going to Liga MX.
But the flip side might be, sorry, Jim, might be Josh Sargent, right? And what he's doing in the championship, because we might be a year from now, and let's just assume for 1 minute that Norwich gets promoted, right, to the Premier League. We may see again what happened to Josh Sargent, where he doesn't score goals, where he plays the entire game at midfield defending, and a year from now we're like, well, where'd all the goals go from Josh Sargent? Like, you know what I mean? So there's a flip side where Josh Sargent actually used it. And I know Chuck and we've gone on about, Josh needs to get to the next place, right? He needs to get to whatever the next step is. But he's the example of the guy that used the championship to get him where he is. And I don't know what the numbers are over the last couple of weeks, because kind of, for me, it's been hard to follow stats and all that stuff over the last couple of weeks. But I know he's scoring goals almost on a weekly basis. So 8 goals I'm seeing here in 8 games. So it's a pretty good haul. So I just wanted to give the flip side of that, of an example that worked out in that case.
The only pushback to that is you have a Balogun and a Pepe who are injured. On top of that, Sargent has played in the World Cup. Typically, Sargent has ruled himself out, is taking himself out of the equation because of injury. And then if you look at all the options, I don't care. At this point, it's whoever's scoring, whoever's playing, you're getting called in. At this point,
unless you're Alejandro Zendejas, Chuck. All right, we're going to take our first break. I'll call it what you want. When we come back, we're obviously going to break down some more stuff as it pertains to this roster and continue to look forward. So don't go anywhere.
The clock never stops. Relive the greatest moments with uninterrupted highlights and more.
It's Gareth Bale! Ronaldo! Wonderful goal!
On the UEFA Champions League channel. Streaming free.
All right, welcome back into Call It What You Want. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Charlie Davies and Big Tones. Tony Meola is back and ready to rock. As a reminder, everybody, we're going to be in LA next week for the Concacaf Nations League semifinals and finals. We're going to have some live shows. In fact, you should come join us. If you're in LA or if you're going to travel to LA for these particular games, we're going to do our first show in front of a live audience, first time ever, in collaboration with the American Outlaws. So that is March 19th at the Meeting Spot in Inglewood. Doors open at 6 p.m. and the show starts an hour later. Come one, come all. Also, the American Outlaws are organizing a pickup game for fans attending the Nations League Final on Saturday, March 22nd. More details on theamericanoutlaws.com. And if I'm feeling limber, I might have to hop in. And
hey, I'm with you, Jimmy.
Yeah,
I'm
why
with
not?
you.
A little stretching. I'll have to consider it.
See,
But,
if this vacation pays off and I don't get injured,
yeah. As long as you're wearing that orange penny, that's exactly what we want.
I'll come with us. By the way, this is from Kansas City, I think. This is like Matt Beasler and co. I think came up with this company. So shout out to
I think I have one of those as well.
Former U.S.
So I appreciate
former
that.
U.S. center back.
All right, so let's continue the conversation where we left it, Chuck. I know I cut you off with regard to that, but we had to get to break. And this championship versus MLS, it's interesting because, and Brendan Aaronson for me is probably the most surprising. He's starting pretty much every single game for Leeds, who are the top team in the championship. He is having goal contributions. He is doing positive actions in the attacking third of the field consistently, and yet we don't have room for him in this team. But we have some MLS players that got a nod over him. Tones, I actually want your thoughts on this. I do think to Charlie's point earlier before the break that there is something to be said that, hey, listen, Mauricio Pochettino is showing respect to MLS, and if you do perform well here in your domestic league, that there could be an opportunity for you to get a chance with the national team.
There was always so much conversation with Greg about, he's got to pander to MLS and bring players in. I never, fill his quota. That was certainly used all the time. I never thought that with Greg, and I don't think this with Pochettino. I'm still of the mindset that managers see different things. They see players differently. We could pick one player and we would have three different views on the player or three different ideas about where they fit in or what's their best position or should they be on the national team. And I don't think this roster is any different. So Brian White, I'm just going to use him because he's the example that we've chosen, right, as the biggest surprise in this thing. It's probably not a surprise to Mauricio Pochettino and his staff, by the way. Marlon Fossey would be the other one for me. But that just shows me that they've had eyes, right, in Belgium. They've had eyes. They've had feet on the ground, and they're going to see players play, and they're watching video, and they're studying all of this stuff. And at some point, we all have to, we debate all of this, but at some point you got to go, okay, man, we got Pochettino here, and we trust him, and we move forward with whatever he says. Like, there's got to be some level of that at some point. But I would think, obviously, if Pepe was there and if Balogun was there, then maybe this looks a little bit different. But this is where we're at right now. But I don't think with the available players that Pochettino is looking at this as a massive surprise in any of this thing. And when you think of true number nines, in like target number nines, forget the fact that we all want to convert Weah, the three of us, and I'm sure a lot of the viewers and listeners want to convert Weah to a number 9. Let's forget that for 1 minute. The true number 9s here are Josh Sargent, Ajiman, and Brian White in this thing. Those are like the number 9s. The guys who played the point number 9. We can convert somebody, but Pochettino has to look at, okay, who are my guys, man? And we said Ajiman is the one guy that gives a little different profile. And that's obviously what Pochettino took from this. He gets something different out of Ajiman. But yeah, look, I mean, I love the fact that we're debating these rosters, and we think we can put other guys in there because it just shows me we're deeper in a lot of areas than maybe we were in the past.
Could I add that if either of the Aaronsons are getting a snub, I think it's more so Paxton than Brendan. Paxton is playing with Utrecht, and Utrecht are flying. They're third in the Eredivisie. We see Ajax, PSV, Twente, Feyenoord, even Alkmaar. They all have had success in Europe. So Utrecht has had a sensational season, and a young Paxton Aaronson has found a way to contribute in this team. So, I mean, I look at some of the matches, he's scored against PSV. He's scored against Feyenoord. He's playing, he's starting consistently. He's contributing. I think what it comes down to is, in this case, is just the quality ahead of him. If you're looking at deep positions, even Brendan, they're probably going to be competing for the same spot. And I said this, a couple podcasts ago, it's probably going to come down to one or the other, not both. If both are playing and playing well, and there is a spot available, I think it's Paxton or Brendan competing for the same spot. And if you're looking at, as they both play in the midfield, I think Paxton is more of an 8 now, and Brendan is a 10. Paxton's probably better with the ball, but in terms of similar attributes, they both press, they both bomb forward, they're both active. And now it's, what can you do with the ball at your feet? What's the difference maker for you? And I think that's kind of the position that they're in, is there's a number of talented players in those positions. The midfield is stacked.
Okay, so the Paxton Aaronson one, I'm glad you brought him up, Chuck, because he has been pretty tremendous this season for Utrecht, and a big catalyst for them, and playing a little bit deeper, right? And then joining the attack late. I really like his late runs. We talked to him on Morning Footy a couple weeks ago. What's interesting, though, getting back to the MLS part of this conversation, is when I look at the 6 players that are in this roster, we have, let's start with the goalkeepers, Schulte and Steffen. Probably not going to play. I would assume that both of these games are going to go to Matt Turner. I could be wrong. Maybe Steffen gets the semifinal and Turner gets the final, but my sense is that whoever he goes with in the first game, he'll go with in the second game. Mm-hmm. So, okay, then we go to Tim Ream. We can make an argument. We talked about it a little bit. Maybe he won't play this particular, maybe he's just around, and they're going to give, Chris Richards has been really sharp for Crystal Palace since Chalobah went back from his loan deal with Chelsea. And then they've got 5 clean sheets in his last 10 games where he started.
He's been playing really well.
He's been sharp, right? Really sharp. So I could see a Richards was part of the camp against Jamaica, by the way, and didn't start either one of those games. They went with McKenzie and Ream. So I think McKenzie's in for sure. He's been sharp at Toulouse. So it's just a matter of kind of, you go with, and you got the Celtic guys as well. Are you going to give them some minutes? Or are you just trying to bring them in to get it around the camp? And then you have Brian White and Ajimang. Josh Sargent's going to start. So maybe you see them coming off the bench based on the situation, or if we've got a lead, a comfortable lead. Hopefully we do in either one of those games, and they can get some minutes. The only one of the 6 MLS players that I think has a legitimate chance outside of Ream of getting significant minutes, but having an impact on the game is Diego Luna. And I bring him up because we've been kind of thirsting to see, and I'm not alone in this, people I talk to off camera, like, how will he fit in with the first team? If we got Diego Luna in with the first team, how would he do with, in theory, being surrounded by better players, Big Tones, right? And can he unlock certain space or with the type of passes that he can make to a Christian Pulisic as opposed to other players that he was playing with before? I'm very curious about that, and I wonder if Mauricio Pochettino and his staff are thinking the same things.
Yeah, I think it's, when you're in a January camp, you're in with, a bunch of guys that are, I don't want to say the B team, but are below really the first team, right? And trying to get into the first team. This, I think, actually should become easier for Diego Luna, right? He's got better players around him, guys that so it's not like you're trying to mix 11 different guys together. You're putting one in with a core group, right? You're putting one in with an 8 or 9 group of players that have been there, that have played at higher levels, that understand Pochettino a little bit more than Diego Luna would. So I think this is fascinating to see him, because we haven't had a true sort of playmaker like him for a long time. We haven't had a guy that sits underneath, and I still think, even though they played Gio, Yeah, but he's still a little bit different for me than Diego Luna is. Gio's might be a better, straight passer, thread a needle, but Diego Luna has like a little flair about him that we haven't seen in a long time. And I still think the choice was probably with that type of player, Zendejas or him. I know they start in two different positions. Zendejas starts a little bit more from the right-hand side, Diego Luna a little bit more from the left-hand side, but I don't ever see those two guys on the field together, right? So if you want something to change the rhythm of the game, Diego Luna's your guy. And I don't know. I'm chuckling about it. But if you're Pochettino, can you get over the fact that the dude broke his nose and like looked you in the eye and said, "I'm not coming out, coach"? Like, can you know how Pochettino talked about that, right? Like he was genuinely excited to talk about that moment with Diego Luna. And Diego's the one thing he's going to do. He's going to fight his ass off all the time, right? He's going to battle for everything. And what he's added, if you talk to Pablo Mastroeni, and I've spoken to him multiple times from calling games, he's added the defensive part of it too. So he's not just lazy with the ball. He does the dirty work. I'm fascinated to see if he gets in a game here because, as you said, we've been calling for it for a little while now.
Yeah, Chuck, I want your thoughts on this. Like, let's say, because is that the differentiator, I would say, between Diego Luna and Gio Reyna? Not like for like players, but obviously they both have that little something special in that creative mindset and mentality and player profile, right? But because of the defensive work,
but different.
Yeah,
I would say different. They're both different.
Yeah,
they both are special in the way that they have a different player profile and they offer you something different than the rest of this crew in that attacking midfield role. But they're very, very unique from each other because they don't have the same quality. So I think Gio Reyna is very silky smooth. He has this dribbling, and I think he has a really good eye for a pass. I mean, he can play those killer balls. Probably a better goal scorer than Diego Luna, but Diego Luna is a fighter. He's also not afraid to dribble. He's got that creative juice in him that you need as an attacking midfielder, but he's a little bit more of a fighter. He likes more contact than Gio. I think they both will open up the attacking third for the U.S. men's national team. So I'm interested to see who's in front of the other, right, coming into this camp. Obviously, there's a special connection already with Pochettino and Diego Luna. When you play with a broken nose and you can contribute and fight as a young player trying to make an impact, trying to show Pochettino I'll do whatever it takes. He's clearly shown that, hey, I'm here for this country. I'm here for you. I'm here for the team. And right off the bat, that's something that'll never leave Pochettino. He'll always think of Diego Luna. I know I can count on him in no matter what the situation is, no matter what the moment, just from that one act in a January camp. So it'll be interesting. He goes with an MLS guy like Diego Luna, a young player. And I go back to the U20 World Cup where he was thriving as a false nine. And it wasn't until the quarterfinals when they played Uruguay that Mikey Veras changed everything up. And they lose 2-0. But I think he's a real talented player that can figure it out. And I wouldn't be surprised if he does get meaningful minutes, Jimmy.
Okay, so here we go. January camp. I could now, looking at this roster, could say that it matters. The January camp mattered. And it's a January camp alumni that made the most of my opportunities in that. That pumps me up. So thank you, Mauricio Pochettino, for putting a little emphasis on the January camp, making a difference and impacting your team in a positive way. None of these players, maybe they don't pan out, but they had the opportunity. And to your point, Big Tones, when you're around players, when you get to see how they fit in, if you get to see how they align to your philosophy and how quickly they can adapt to what you want, it makes a difference. And without the January camp, you might not have known that about a few of these guys. And I think that only helps our player pool get deeper, get more competitive, and I think it feels a little bit more democratic that everybody has a potential chance to get a crack at the national team. So
don't you think, Jimmy, don't you think if you're Pochettino, like we said when he first came in, he had to have his eyes open to everything, right? It was, I know it's kind of a trite saying, oh, everybody's got a clean slate, right? But I feel this shows that everybody had a clean slate. And yeah, we're talking about Gio, and I don't know that we're comparing Gio to Luna. I still think Gio is the guy until he's not really the guy anymore. But if you're Pochettino, you're looking at it and go, I still have to gain some trust in Gio, right? I still have to see Gio do what I want him to do, and how I want him to do it, and then I need to see him do it on a consistent basis for the national team. So I think that Gio plays ahead of Luna. I also think there's a moment in there where if Pochettino wants to change the rhythm of the game somehow, that Luna could be an option for him. As I said, I ended the last comment. I'm interested to see what Mauricio Pochettino does with Diego Luna in this camp and how he uses him, if he uses him at all.
Yeah, no, that's true, and some good points on Gio as well. Go ahead, Chuck.
I was going to say there's a lot of chatter about Diego Luna not producing, at RSL like some of these other players. It's not about his numbers for me. It's about the potential that he has, that I see him, and how Tony pointed out. Maybe it's a player who comes in and he's a little bit raw, because I think Diego's still a little raw, given what he's done. Can Pochettino take him up a few notches? And I'm willing to bet that he could. So in that instance, that's why we're looking at Diego Luna, not so much for where he is right now, but what he can be under Pochettino and with the A team. That's how we're looking at it. We know that Gio Reyna is proven. We know his ceiling. Maybe we don't even know his ceiling. We know how good he can be if he's consistent and he's healthy, but we haven't seen that. And then you look at this lineup where if Reyna's fully fit, is he a starter over Yunus Musah? If we're playing a 4-1-2-3 and we're talking about two attacking midfielders, McKinney and Pulisic, if they're there, is he playing over Musah? Is it because he's not in my mind, he's not playing over either Weston or Christian as those two attacking midfielders. So the only spot is really Yunus Musah. Would you play him over Yunus Musah in that case?
Yeah. I don't know if I would in this particular moment, but
Gio Reyna can't, Jimmy, in this camp. You can't in this camp. Moose is playing on a weekly basis right now. Like I still think, and I'm reading the tea leaves, right? I still think that Gio's got to gain some trust from Pochettino and what he's trying to do, right? And I know Gio's been great in this tournament in the past, right? Like, look at what he did last year in this tournament. But Pochettino's new, man. Pochettino he knows the results of last year. He doesn't give a rat's ass about last year. He doesn't care, nor should he. He's worried about this year and next year, right? Last year means nothing to him right now. So, it's going to be fascinating to see how he handles, players like Gio who haven't played a lot of minutes, and it really is. And then it's going to be fascinating what he does, because we're all assuming, Chuck, like you said before, I'm with you. When Dest comes back, it changes the whole dynamic of everything. But does Pochettino still have to find some trust in Dest? Right? Never. To this point, he's never played for Pochettino.
Right.
There's some real Musah haters in the chat, by the way. I have to.
How do you hate him? How do you hate Musah?
I can't believe some of the things I'm reading. That Musah is not good enough. They're overhyping Musah. He's been hyped for too long. He's not great in the middle of the field. Awful in the middle. He's useless. What do you got? What are you guys seeing?
He's triggered. You guys got him.
What are you guys talking about?
You got him. Oh, it's 43 minutes. It took a little bit longer than usual. I do want to say this. I think one of the benefits, I know it doesn't feel good for the players that got left off, who were snubs or missions, as we like to say, for this roster. But what I think it does is it not only does it demonstrate that we have some real depth and that Mauricio Pochettino is looking at different things, right, and getting creative with some of the options. But I also, if I'm Brendan Aaronson, I think it generates, or at least it should, a call and say, hey, what do I have to do? What do I have to add to my game to make sure that I'm called into the team? Now, I don't know if I would have done that as a player, but that's what I would want to know. And that way I could get better at that particular area. And if you had guys that had that type of dialogue with the coaching staff, I think that would be really important to continue to push guys, because he might not know. He's going to go back and be like, I don't know what else I could have done. Yeah, okay, Brendan Aaronson, 1 goal and 0 assists in his last 12 games. So he's not really adding the goal contributions from a statistical standpoint, but he's still starting for the best team in the championship. And he probably thought that was more than enough and given his previous experience. So I use him as an example, but if you had that dialogue with your player pool for players that are outside of the 23 that are in this, I think it becomes a pretty valuable conversation to have with the coaching staff. All right, we're going to take our last break and call it what you want. When we come back, we got some news to explore, including Concacaf dropping a new mascot on us. I don't remember anybody asking for it, but we have it anyway. We're going to get into it. Don't go anywhere.
Dive into the biggest moments from the big dance with NCAA March Madness Bracket Breakdown. Sunday on CBS Sports Network.
Ooh, more call it what you want time here. I'm Jimmy alongside Chuck and Big Tones. And we're going to start, actually. I know I teased the CONCACAF mascot. We'll get into Volar in a second. But we have some announcements. Some friendlies have been dropped for the U.S., and I want to get everybody's thoughts, including people watching live on the Gloss America YouTube channel. Do you like these opponents? So it's going to be June 7th. We are playing against Turkey, and that game will be in Hartford, Connecticut, which is not too far from Stamford, Connecticut, where the Golasso Network is housed. And then on June 10th, 3 days later, we got Switzerland in Nashville. And so, Big Tones, I'm coming to you first. Do you like these two opponents? It's not easy to get opponents, and especially European opponents, because they're usually in their UEFA Nations League, and they have other things going on. But I'm pleasantly surprised. I think these are going to be two good teams for us to continue to get better. But your thoughts?
Yeah, they're good friendlies, and I'm always happy when I don't see a CONCACAF team in a friendly game.
Yes. No more Panama.
And I see two teams that competed in European championships, right? That have players, and Turkey's got some young attacking players in that group. Switzerland's always good. I like them. I think they fit right into. So is that? I'm assuming that's up in Rentschler Field, Wrenching Field up there in.
I think it was Rentschler.
Rentschler, yeah, is that what it is up there? The old stadium, yeah.
Connecticut.
And where was the other one?
Let's go. New England is.
The other one's in Nashville.
I feel Nashville.
Right
okay, I feel like a road trip from Stanford is in order.
I'll be there. U.S. Soccer is hosting me for that, and I have to say,
flex of the day. You're wearing the right shirt to drop a flex on us. Let's be honest.
Hey, let's go. What I will say is, we saw U.S. Germany in Connecticut. The atmosphere was incredible, and it was rainy. It was a gloomy day, but still vibes. It brought me the old school tailgating. All the U.S. men's national team fans were together. It was a real vibe. So I can only imagine what it's going to be like in June. So I love the fact that it's two strong European sides. It's a great test, and I think we'll learn a lot from those two friends as well.
Yeah, I think it's two good opponents as well. And you guys said everything that there needs to be said about that. But another opportunity, obviously, to see our player pool before a Gold Cup roster has to be produced. And I'm very curious about that Gold Cup roster as well. Okay, CONCACAF, I teased it, has a new mascot named Volar. And it was a design company that partnered with Marvel. They created a comic book. And for if you haven't seen Volar, and if you're not watching on YouTube, I highly suggest you go check it out. This
wow,
it's a seabird.
What?
And he's got wings, and each part of the wing is one of the countries in CONCACAF. And this dude is ripped. Like, he does not miss a day at the gym. His calves are massive. He's got Jeff Agu's calves, Big Tones. You know what I'm talking about. I mean, it's. I guess it's more for the kids, I'd assume. I don't know who else was looking for this. Obviously, you try to build hype and get excitement for all generations for the 2026 World Cup. So I like that if they're going to do it, you might as well go all in, and they've gone all in. So I respect that part of it.
He's giving me Falcon Marvel vibes, like strong Marvel character equipment. I'm flying. Look at the wings in the back. That's Falcon from Marvel. Tell me that's not.
That's true. That's true. That is
what the hell is this?
There we go, Tones.
Trying to keep
I want to see Tones dressed up in
blood
that.
pressure down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. if you told me it was great, I would say I'd agree with you. If you told me it was awful, I'd agree with you too. So
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure. I don't know. I don't get too worked up about mascots, but
which angle of the three are you feeling the most?
Yeah, we got 3 angles.
You got
I
three
kind of like
angles.
the side
front,
profile. The side profile. He looks the
I think the
tough.
side profile, that's like a flex right there.
He's
Like,
side eyeing us
yeah.
right now. Yeah, he's showing off his
but
guns.
the eye is like two.
Oh, he's got
friendlies.
cleats
It's like
on
two
too. I
nights,
just
you know what
noticed
I mean?
he's got
He does.
cleats.
Chuck,
Oh,
Chuck, if you're not wearing this when we go to LA for our live show with the American Outlaws, I don't know if we can do our show anymore. I think we have to call it
they
off.
legitimately gave him 6 studs. Did you see that? He had 6 studs on. Holy cow.
All right.
Wow.
So we talked a lot, and obviously some exciting friendlies. We did a poll, and the poll was, this is the question for everybody that's watching on YouTube. Who should complete the U.S. men's national team midfield with Tyler Adams and Weston McKennie? You had Pulisic, Musah, Cardoso, and Tessman as your options. And right now, Johnny Cardoso is flying away with it. Chuck, your thoughts?
Wow. Well, I think it's recency bias, right? The goal against Real Madrid. He's been playing really well as of late with Real Betis. They're climbing up the table in La Liga. So,
but Chuck, he has never been super solid with the U.S.
No,
right? Like every time he gets his opportunities, it's not that one where that's the guy.
No,
whereas, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say we always go back to, well, he's playing at a certain level, so he can play at that level, and it hasn't clicked with the U.S. men's national team. But maybe it's that camp that it does click, right? If you can continue your club form and you're playing at a super high level and you're playing consistently, you come in with the national team and maybe the vibe's off. Maybe the tactics are off. Maybe you had a bad camp. Maybe you're dealing with an injury. Who knows? But to not get that opportunity again, I always go, sometimes you see players and you go, okay, that guy's hit his max. And no matter how many camps he gets, how many appearances he gets, it's not going to work, right? Versus, all right, he's doing that against Real Madrid. He's shown that he can contribute at the highest level. He's definitely earned another opportunity. So, I think the fans are right about this one.
Okay, the poll suggests that Christian Pulisic, obviously not being number one, just means they prefer him out on the wing as opposed to central. Do you agree with this poll, Tones? And do you think actually that Pochettino will go with Cardoso? I thought Tessman did a good job of taking his opportunity when he had it against Jamaica. I thought he fit in seamlessly and it looked good. No Tyler Adams, obviously. So that will impact whether you want to have a second somewhat holding midfielder but will you have McKennie, who's kind of your, that 8 that can go box to box. So who would you like to see, or do you think Cardoso is going to be the one?
Yeah, with Tyler in there and Weston, who we know will do both things, like getting up and down the field, he'll get in the box on the end of headers, and he'll also defend when he needs to. I'd like to see somebody a little bit more attacking in the middle of the field. If that's how we're gonna kind of slice up that part of the field, like to me, Johnny Cardoso is he's different than Tyler Adams, but the same thing where he plays a little bit deeper. He's not a guy that gets into the attack. Now you're asking Weston, who is the guy that comes from behind, not the guy that leads the attack all the time, right? He's the guy that kind of sneaks at the top of the box. But he gets on the end of a cross. But he can. But it's not his number one quality.
Right.
Why not use a more attack-minded player in there? So then you got Tyler, who's the destroyer, right? And distributor. You got Weston, who does a little bit of both. Now we need somebody a little bit higher for me that's more attack-minded, 90% attack-minded, 10% defensive-minded. So it balances it out a little bit. I just think Johnny gives us, I like him. I think he just gives us more of what we already have in there. If those are the pairings you're looking at.
So I'm going to use that as kind of our final question for today's show. We're going to tie it up here because we know that Chuck's got to hit the weight room or whatever he's doing with that tank top after the show. But the question is this: if you're Mauricio Pochettino and the coaching staff, and we're going to use this kind of midfield conversation to generate it, are you looking to roll out basically the same starting 11 for both games? Or do you feel like there could be some rotation based on the opponent in the final? And Chuck, I'll come to you first on this because I wonder, hey, if I'm Mauricio, I've got 14 guys that I'm probably going to use. in this one. And yeah, okay, maybe a little bit bigger because you have some subs. But in terms of the starting 11, maybe you're just looking at 14 guys from a starting 11 perspective.
Yeah.
Do you think that's the case, or do you think we'll see more significant rotation between the two games, Chuck?
I don't. I think he's going to rotate the squad. I don't know about how heavily he's going to rotate it, but I don't think we're going to see the same starters as we see in the semifinal as we're going to see in the final. The other thing is they're two CONCACAF opponents. No disrespect to Panama or Mexico/Canada, but if we're playing a Spain and an England, would he still be rotating as much? Would he need to because of the shift that some of these guys are going to have to put in? Is he have to think about the players going back to Europe with their clubs and not getting injured when they go back? So I think there's a lot going in it, but I do think he's going to switch up at least 3 starters between the semifinal and the final.
Okay. I wonder which areas. Maybe one in each line of the field. Tones, what do you think from a coaching perspective?
Well, I'm trying to remember. Jamaica, he didn't make any changes, right? He didn't change the back four. He was forced into one change in the midfield, right? Who got hurt early on in that midfield? I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but I don't recall him making too many changes. And with what are we at? Thursday and Sunday are the 2 games, right? So right. Johnny got hurt early, right? And Tessman came in and.
Or I thought he put
Tillman.
Yeah.
You're right. Tillman came in and played deeper and stayed in that deeper position, which he hadn't played before. Actually played pretty well that game. That was probably one of his best games, as I recall. So yeah, he hasn't shown the idea of major rotation, but I do think, Charlie, in this camp, we get a rotation out of him of 3 or 4 players.
All right.
But I mean, we'll see. We don't have a big enough sample size of Pochettino to kind of really know his ideas, right? We don't have that yet.
We're going to find out. I feel like a significant rotation is something you'd see in the friendlies that are coming up. Turkey going to have a team, and then maybe you do 5 or 6, 7 rotations against Switzerland a couple days later. In this competition, being that we're the only nation to have won it
for a trophy, it's for a trophy, right?
Yeah, then I don't know. I think it could be a little bit different and maybe a little bit tighter, but we'll have to wait and see. All right, that's it. We're calling it a show. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Chuck is going to go use his shake weight and really get ripped. I just wanted the visual of Chuck and a shake weight in everybody's mind. Big Tones, great to see you as always. We love that you're back. We love that you're doing well. Long may that continue. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us. Congrats to all the players that got called in. And we can't wait for the games next week. Join us in LA.
Yes, you in LA.
We're doing pickup games. It's going to be popping off. So come back and hang out with us on Thursday. And then obviously next week, it's all happening in person in LA. So we'll see you then. Thanks for hanging out. Later.